All right, welcome into today's show. We're joined by Anthony Jones out of Trenton, Georgia with Southern Life BBQ. Anthony, welcome.
What's up?
Not too much. So for our listeners, got connected with Anthony actually, oddly enough, via social media.
That's right.
Facebook, I believe, and he's very active in the competitive barbecue space. He's got an event coming up here in September, actually, and we'll touch on that. Matter of fact, let's camp out on that for a second. Chat about that contest you got coming up.
Yeah. So basically, it's a non-sanctioned event, and we're trying to get more barbecue teams to the Northwest Georgia area. We don't have a lot, that goes on here, so I'm just trying to grow this. This will be our second year, and what we're doing is we're running with a nonprofit organization, and they kind of help people who have been incarcerated kind of get back on their feet, try to help them find a job, housing, food, clothing, things like that. So all the proceeds that we make from the Smoke on the Square goes to that organization.
Awesome. And now, how do people register for that? If I got some teams listening to the show, is there a link that I can put in the show notes for them?
They can reach out to me by email. It's southernlifebbq@gmail.com. Or they can find us on the Facebook page, which is Smoke on the Square. You'll find it. I think it's Trenton Smoke on the Square is our Facebook page.
Awesome. And we'll have links to both of that for the listeners in the show notes so you can see that. And if you can make it, come on out. We're, as Anthony talked about, promoting barbecue is part of, the family, part of the experience. And so I always try to support those that want to grow the sport, although I say that mildly, maybe not a sport, but the competition. There you go. Try to grow the competition.
It's a sport to me, man. I love doing it. So
let's camp out on the sport then. How long have you been competing?
Believe it or not, this will be my second year. So I've been doing barbecue for quite a while, probably 5-6 years, just, picked it up as a hobby. And this will be my second year actually competing. First year competing in KCBS.
Love it. So what were you doing prior to KCBS?
Just non-sanctioned events.
Awesome.
So just what I could find around me.
There you go. Now, did you go backyard first, or did you just jump right into the pro division?
Oh, I'm still in backyard right now. I'm too, brisket's kind of holding me back because, just meat is so high right now.
Yep.
So I'm just having a lot of fun in the backyard. It's just so relaxed. And I've met a lot of great guys in the pro division. I hang out with, several of them, but right now I'm just sticking with backyard.
So what was think back, you said you've been doing this 2 years. What was the driving force to even get into this type of stuff?
Man, I actually ran into Sean Cosby with Choo Choo Barbecue, and he lives around here. He competes in the pro division quite a bit, and we just kind of started talking on social media, and I just kind of decided to make the jump and see what all the bigger competition barbecue was like.
So it's been about year and a half, 2 years, and you started unsanctioned, then you started backyard. What's that progression look like in your mind? I know it's different for everybody, but do you think at some point you'll step up to the pro division?
I think I would. Yeah. I would still give it another couple of years, but I think I could see myself going pro for sure.
And it sounds like the biggest thing, and for our listeners, the biggest thing that keeps teams from going pro is the brisket, which is the most expensive cut of meat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially when you're competing, because you're not just going to go buy or you could, I guess. Most don't buy a choice brisket. They're going to go buy a Wagyu, a Snake River, or an A9. And so for our listeners, that's why there's that, the backyard division allows you to still compete, get the timelines down, but just not commit as much financially to it starting out. And so that's the beauty of barbecue, is that you can, make it how you want to make it. You can start wherever you want to start. The most important thing is just get out there and compete.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've made a lot of great friendships through this.
So I know that the whole genesis of your contest coming up in September I know the big driving force behind that was to get more barbecue teams or more competitive barbecue going on in North Georgia.
Correct.
So I know how difficult it can be organizing events, much less a barbecue competition.
Hmm.
What was for you, when did you draw the line in the sand and say, you know what, if nobody else is going to do this, I'm going to do it?
Basically, I'm kind of known around our town for, barbecue and running my barbecue page. And we just wanted something different for our community. Everybody has, the festivals and,
Mhm.
things that they like to go to. So we just decided, hey, there's nothing barbecue related around me. So let's see where this leads. We had a great first year. I had 11 teams signed up, and over the whole event, we raised $14,000 for the organization we're trying to raise money for. So that was just phenomenal. And I think a lot of people in our area really like the barbecue. They like to hold the idea of seeing teams compete and, just coming and watching. And so, I live in a super small town, and that was really cool for the community to come out and support all of the teams.
Absolutely. And the fact that it's benefiting, it sounds like a great organization that's helping, people get back on their feet, I think is awesome. And that's one thing you'll find in the barbecue family is that most people, not going to say all, but most are what I would consider, passionate, and they want to serve the community. They want to give back to the community. Would you agree with
Mhm.
that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's huge.
Now, backyard, let's cap out on that because we do have listeners who are considering backyard, considering getting into it. So you've been doing about a year and a half, 2 years. For those teams that are on the fence, that are doing the non-sanctioned stuff and maybe considering the backyard route, what advice, what mistakes, maybe that you made that you can help them avoid?
Man, I say just jump in and do it.
Yeah.
You know, I I feel like I probably waited. I don't know if you can really wait too long, but I felt like I waited too long. It's just I wanted to jump in and do it. Non-sanctioned events are one of the best ways to get started. KCBS is cool if you want to have a little more structure and you want to kind of follow, exact timelines, exact turn ins, exact meets, things like that. Backyard, non-sanctioned events, and that's why I like them really well, is because they're so laid back. There is structure to them, but it's not as tight knit as if you were doing KCBS or chasing points. Same with like the GBA. They have their own point system too. So
That's right. So take us back then when this journey all started, right? I always like to talk about barbecue journey because it's interesting to me how we get started on this barbecue journey, no matter where it is in life. But for you, what did that look like? How did you develop this passion for barbecue?
well, I first started with social media. So one of my first groups that I had joined was the Master Built Smokers group,
Sure.
and I had no clue what I was doing, and I was trying to find the easiest way to get into it. And I had went out and bought a cabinet styled master built smoker.
Hmm.
And I started smoking pork butts and ribs and chicken and all of that. And I did that for about a year and realized that, I really want to step this up. And now I'm up to, 7 or 8 smokers, grills,
Sure.
you name it. It's an addictive hobby.
Absolutely. Because as I'm sure you know, if you get another smoker, you normally don't get rid of one. So
Correct. Correct. Correct.
so give us an idea then. What's your setup like? What's your equipment like? Like, at a backyard contest, what are you cooking on?
Well, right now I'm cooking on drums.
Yep.
So I have that's pretty big right now. It's been working well for me. I run 3 gateway drums, 55-gallon drums, and that's pretty much it. I'm able to, sleep all night. I don't have to tend the fire. I wake up, I start my schedule about 5 a.m. and I'm cooking from 5 to 11 o'clock in the morning, just nonstop. I don't have to, baby that fire all night. So drums, and also it's the transportation abilities. So I have a
Yeah.
pickup truck. I can just throw the drums in the back of my truck and head to a competition. I'm not having to, find a trailer, hook one up, pull things.
Right.
It makes it super, super simple to travel just to a local competition with very little.
So what did that transition look like then? You you mentioned you started with a master built cabinet style. At what point did you say, you know what, I'm gonna I'm gonna get into the drums?
That was about last year. So I was first cooking on a Southern Q Limo Junior, and I'd taken it to several competitions, and just trying to get everything loaded into the trailer and hooking the trailer up, pulling the trailer into, tight places. I'm like, there's got to be a different way for me to do this. So
Right.
that's when I started looking at the drums. And I'd seen a lot about them, and I actually ran across one at Bargain Hunt, and they had one for $300,
Wow.
299. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, for that price, I got to try it. So I bought that one, and I practiced on it for probably 6 months, 7 months. Took it to one competition, really started enjoying them, and then ended up buying two more to go with it, so I could cook the three meats, with different drums.
That's right. Now do you have names for your smokers, for your
I
drums?
don't, I
No names
don't,
yet?
I don't,
Now
I don't.
are you the type that, is using the same charcoal, everything the same every time? Because I know that's like a big thing, right? Or
It
do you
is.
kind of change things up a little bit?
I change things up.
Yeah.
So I usually run between B&B charcoal. I've ran Blues Hog charcoal, and I've ran Royal Oak charcoal. So it's just kind of however I'm feeling or what I can find before competition weekend.
Right.
Is usually what I run. I've had no problems with all three. They run great. I found that the Blues Hog for me and my drums runs pretty hot. So after about 3 or 4 hours, I'm typically running out of charcoal. So that I found that, over the last two comps I've had, I ran Blues Hog, and that it's ran pretty hot for me, but it's consistent. They all seem to run
Right.
at the same time. So I don't have any issues with any of those other than just the, quick burn, which is not a problem for me.
Right. So you've got in the backyard, you've got chicken, you've got ribs, you've got um, pork butt.
Mhm.
Of those three, what's your favorite one to cook?
Favorite one to cook is probably ribs. I really like cooking ribs, but I've been hitting really good on chicken. I mean, the last two KCBS comps I've had, I've been in top, all of mine have been top 10 calls.
Yeah.
So I've done really well with those. My favorite though is ribs to cook. I really like to cook ribs.
Now, are you a St. Louis style cut rib? Or are you a spare rib? Or are you a baby back? What's your choice?
It really depends. I typically will get the St. Louis cut already, but if
Yeah.
I have to, then I'll buy the spares and cut them myself.
Yeah. A little bit
It
more
just
work, but it's about half the price.
exactly. Yeah, it is. It is.
Now, are you using the same? This is another question I get a lot of. Are you using the same brand of meat every time?
I am.
And now, are you a Prairie Fresh guy? I know Prairie Fresh is big on the,
I can't really find it around here.
yeah,
So honestly, I get my pork butts from any grocery store,
yeah,
and I just basically look for the money muscle.
yep,
I've not had the opportunity to cook compart meat before, so I don't know the differences. But my pork, I mean, I'm top 10 calls, so it's not hurting me. I'm doing very well with it. Ribs and chicken, I pick up from Publix.
yeah.
I like their meat. Although this last comp, I had a lot of problems finding ribs. Every Publix was out of ribs, so that was an issue for me. But I had to wait last minute for personal reasons.
Sure.
So it was things out of my control. Typically, I don't wait that long to buy my meat. I usually do it a week before, but I had certain circumstances come up that I couldn't do that this competition, and it was pretty hard to find good quality ribs. I ended up getting some from Food City, and they were I think Smithfield, and
Yeah.
they ran really well for me, so I had no problems out of those.
Yeah. One thing I have definitely noticed that Publix has great chicken. Now are you doing thighs? Or are you doing drumsticks?
I do thighs.
Yeah.
Yep.
I found that they have really good thighs and to your point, ribs as well. I tell you, if you ever get a chance to cook the Prairie Fresh Prime butts, the money muscle on those things is like, it's noticeably different. It's also double the price.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to cook one for myself just here at the house, but like I said, Prairie Fresh is really not easy to find around me, which is unfortunate because I really do like their meats.
now, I know you're in a small town. Do you have a local butcher?
We don't, not in my town, but you would have to
Okay.
go to like Chattanooga or something like that to find a local butcher.
So this is, I think, a really important point to camp out on just for a second for our listeners. It doesn't really, whether you're in a big city, whether you're in a small town, I wouldn't get too caught up in, the meat and what you can and can't
Absolutely
find.
not.
I would just simply cook. You know what I mean? Like just start to figure out the color, start to figure out the tenderness so that you don't necessarily need, all these electronics, thermometers, which I understand is important to have to check things, but I think it's somewhat of it seems like it's like the true art of barbecue is maybe kind of fallen by the wayside. And what's replacing it is like all these, technology, which don't get me wrong. I love the temperature, control, the airflow control devices, et cetera. But there's something to be said for somebody that can look at a piece of meat and know, okay, yeah, that's done. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I typically don't temp anything. I'll check just my money muscles, but as far as like ribs or chicken, I pretty much go on tenderness of those.
Cool.
Ribs, I never do it by temp. It's always by the tenderness.
Yeah, and that's what you'll find too. It's interesting to me. Like you'll ask 100 pitmasters, and you probably will get 50 different answers as to how they do it. And I think that's one of the great things I like about competitive barbecue is that there really is no right or wrong way to do it.
Exactly.
Now, there are probably better ways than others, to do things, but there's really not a right or wrong way. And I love what you said earlier about the non-sanctioned events are a little bit more flexible. You have a little bit more creative. What's the word? A little bit more creative, leash, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like at the more structured, like the KCBS, the GBA, you're basically cooking to a flavor profile, and you really don't want to be that creative.
And the differences too with KCBS, you have certified judges. With my competitions being non-sanctioned, I don't. So like last year, we just had our county commissioners, and it kind of made it cool because KCBS judges are looking for specific things: taste, tenderness, appearance. When you get your, regular Joe, they're looking for what tastes good to them. Right. If it tastes good to them, you're pushing out good barbecue.
Right.
And, I really think that's what I like about it. It's just, you get the community involved. And, speaking of this coming competition, the one I have coming up in September, we've actually got some bigger judges this year. So we have Tina Cannon, and we have Sean Cosby, and who was my third one? I had a third one. I forgot who it was now. I'll have to look it up. But, I've got pretty big name teams. Oh, Randall Bowman from Deep South Smokers. That's who it was. Because I just actually bought a Deep South smoker and asked him to come out and see if he's been on the board of KCBS. He knows barbecue. And I thought it would be really cool to, have those three people who are special to me come out and try our team's barbecue. I hate to go off the beaten path, but I did want to mention, the differences of the judging, between KCBS and Backyard. There is a big difference.
It's a great point because there's a huge difference. And that's, I think, important to know when you're getting into competitive barbecue that, if you're doing something that's sanctioned, you're basically cooking for the judges.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the way that I cook at a competition is way different than I cook at home.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, personally, I don't like competition barbecue. If I'm just trying to sit around and eating it, that's not really what we're accustomed to, making the nice chicken pillows and, you know, s- straight cut ribs, things like that. My family's used to just digging in.
Just dig in. That's
Mhm.
right. That's right. So you mentioned the Deep South. You've got a GC28, right?
I've got an RGC.
RGC.
Yep.
So now is that your home cooker or does that go
It
competition?
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Right now it's my home cooker. Yep. So, I cook on it probably at least once a week.
Yeah.
And I'm really getting it broke in. I literally just got it a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. So I've really been, putting everything I can into it. And it's been, man, that's probably my favorite cooker. If I had the style of cooker, if I had to pick one, it would be a gravity fed. There's something about the gravity fed that's a mix between your old fashioned, just, pit barbecue and the convenience, because yes, I do run a fan and a blower in mine to maintain temp, but there's that, easy bake oven, mentality with that style of smoker as well. I can set it and forget it, but I still get that really nice charcoal, authentic pit flavor food off of it.
That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. I think I compare it's like a cross between a stick burner and a pellet grill.
Absolutely.
It's
right in the middle.
You kind of get the best of both worlds. And that's something to think about too, as you're looking at getting into competitive barbecue, or just if you're looking to up your game at home, right? Become king of the backyard, king of the cul-de-sac, whatever you want to call it, is, learn. And this is something I've learned quickly, is learn how to cook on that cooker. Like, don't buy a cooker because you saw a couple of teams that did really well, because that can be, trendy, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What works for them is not going to work for you. Not always.
Right. And I have a drum that we cook our ribs on, and I just cook on it around the house too.
Oh yeah.
Because I want to be able to, it's just me, but I want to be able to, no matter what kind of cooker I have, I want to be able to cook on.
Yeah.
Whether it's pellet, drum, gravity feed. The only one I don't have is a stick burner.
That's the same here. I had one for a little while and ended up not liking it. I had a Oklahoma Joe.
Yeah.
And I just one you bought at Lowe's, and I ran it for a little while, and it didn't grab me. I just didn't care for that particular smoker.
Right.
There's a million different offset smokers. I'm not bashing on offset, but it's just that smoker for me was not ideal. So I ended up selling it, and actually just I purchased a Southern Q Limo Junior and used it for a little while, and ended up selling it, and then went with the RGC. And that was one of the best decisions I've made.
So what drew you to the gravity feed, the Deep South RGC?
Well, honestly, it's Randall. The customer service was fantastic. I bombed him with a million questions before I made a decision. And man, I mean, I lined up the top 4 or 5 smokers in an Excel spreadsheet, compared all of them. I mean, every feature that I wanted or that it listed on the website. I went through that. I compared everything, went with the Southern Q at first because it is cheaper. You're looking at, $2,300, for a good gravity fed smoker. And there were just little quirks and things that I didn't care for with that one. It's a great cooker, but for me, it had some quirks that I personally did not care for.
Right.
And when I started looking at more of the higher end, gravity fed smokers, the Deep South kept coming up. So I joined the Deep South Facebook page, started browsing around a little bit, seeing what people were using, looking at what would fit in my budget, because, I'm not out here on the circuit making bukus of money. I don't have sponsors, things like that. So I have to find something in my budget. And I started looking at the Deep South, and the quality is just astounding. I mean, it is, fully welded, 900 pounds. So just as a comparison, the Southern Q Smoker Limo Junior, 300-pound weight.
Yep.
If you look at the RGC, pretty similar dimensions. That guy is 900 pounds.
Wow.
So, I mean, you're talking about the steel thickness is so much, thicker. The insulation is thicker. It holds temp. Mine actually will shoot over temp a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it just chugs. And you can tell just by the thickness of the smoker itself, the quality that was put into it. I mean, Randall just puts out a fantastic smoker.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. I mean, I've been able to look at his offsets. A couple of my friends have his offset, and it just all around, that smoker for the price is just, the quality is fantastic.
That's right. Yeah. I bought the GC28 secondhand. But yeah, you're right. It's built like a tank.
Yeah.
Holds temp great. The only downside is it's built like a tank. So it's
exactly. You
can't pick it up and put it in your truck.
No,
Yeah.
That is true. I mean, and believe it or not, with my Southern Q, I could. Yeah. I got two guys, and we just lifted it into the back of my truck. I got home, we pulled it out. There is absolutely no way you can do that with a Southern Q. Yeah, it is just so heavy. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned earlier you like to cook ribs. So I'm curious, if you're cooking ribs at home, not competition, but you're cooking ribs at the house, what's your go-to rub recipe at the house for ribs?
I've got two. One, it depends on how I'm feeling that day. I will run Killer Hogs, the barbecue rub, which I think is a fantastic rub on pretty much anything I use. And then I really like the Blues Hog Sweet and Sassy. That has become one of my favorite rubs as well. It's just that nice sweet flavor, and I like sweet ribs myself, and that one is they're both really, really good.
Yeah, and we'll have, for our listeners, we'll have that in the show notes for you guys to take a look at. I'm not familiar with Killer Hogs. I love the sweet and savory though, the Blues Hog Sweet and Savory. I've got that, and that's
sweet and savory. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, the sweet.
That's right. You said sassy. I'm like, well, maybe there's a different one. I don't know.
I was thinking of a different one. You're right. Sweet and savory. But that one's what I've been running actually at home and in competition.
Yeah.
So I've been running that mixed, with various other ones, but that one to me is really, really nice.
So when you started in the backyard circuit, did you go out and take some classes? How did you learn, the structured backyard style?
Pretty much self-taught. So
Yes.
I did a lot of, research on the, a bunch of Facebook groups I'm in, and just kind of, forums and, bouncing back and forth between that. And then we have a local guy who's done a lot of competitions that owns a Owl's Nest barbecue supply. And I, would stop by there for some tips and, things like that. Actually started going to Atlanta Grill Company quite a bit. Yeah. Gary there really, really got me kickstarted into the smoking world. I have a Kamado Joe, so they're a big distributor of Kamado Joes.
Right.
And so I started looking more into that company, making trips down there. He is great. I mean, if any of your listeners want somewhere awesome to go to, I mean, not sponsored or anything like that. Atlanta Grill Company, it is fantastic. I mean, Gary will definitely take care of any of his customers.
Yeah, I've got their rub package back Christmas time, which was amazing. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
And I agree. And, going back to what you said about just being self-taught, that's another, great, what's the word I'm looking for? It's another great time to be in barbecue, because if you think back 30 years ago, there was no YouTube, there was no social media. And now we've got, the internet and we have information overload sometimes. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
you really don't need to overthink it. Learn how to cook, get some videos under your belt. Now I don't mean to oversimplify things. Like, you still need to put in the work, you need to put in the time.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that if you go watch some videos, you're going to be winning grands all of a sudden, although you might. But the point here is that, if you want to really get into it, there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah. And for me, it's a lot of trial and error.
Yep.
I just pretty much there, on the internet, you'll find millions of rubs. And I went down that path. I got, overloaded with rubs. My wife was like, what is all this? I mean, you're talking 30, 40, 50 bottles,
Yep.
just trying different things. I mean, barbecue is an expensive hobby for sure, but it's also fun for me. I mean, I like mixing the different flavor profiles, see what may hit at one competition is not going to hit at the other you just don't know. So you just try to make the best profile. But talking about what you were saying with the Atlanta Grill Company, starter pack or rub pack, that is a perfect place for a beginner person to pick up. They have a flavor profile that ranges from all purpose all the way to, Mexican or their latest pecan rub or, there's a lot of variety there because believe it or not, when I was starting in the backyard world, I was running Atlanta Grill Company rubs. I was running the Georgia butts and ribs rub.
Yep.
The Himalayan, I was running that. I mean, several of their rubs, were what I was putting on my meats.
Yeah, I love the Himalayan, especially on like beef brisket.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So that's good stuff. So as we wind down the show, what kind of parting words of wisdom do you have for, those listeners out there that are looking to make that transition into whether it be backyard, whether it be pro, but you're somebody that made the transition from non-sanctioned to backyard. What kind of words of advice can you share with folks like that?
I would say just jump in and give it your best. I mean, me being a rookie, last weekend I was pulling first place in chicken among 20 other teams. Yeah. You just never know. You just have to get in there. You have to make the jump. Don't hesitate. Don't think about it. Jump in and get a competition under your belt. I mean, it's to me, it's life changing. It is awesome. You will make amazing friends, lifelong friends, guys that will give you tips, tricks, help you out. I mean, just don't even think about it. Jump in and do it.
I love it. That's a powerful way to end the show. Chatting with Anthony Jones out of Trenton, Georgia, with Southern Life BBQ. And again, make sure to check out his event in September. We'll have all those, all the links in the show notes, as well as check out his Facebook page. He's a wealth of information. And thanks for being on the show, Anthony. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime.